The floor just got 10 feet higher. In today's video, we're going to be going over one of the long-term charts that covers Bitcoin's production cost and the basement price for Bitcoin. Essentially, the price that Bitcoin doesn't really like to, operate below or if ever for too long. And we have seen it update rather significantly since the price of Bitcoin, or the price to produce Bitcoin, has, well, risen since, of course, the halving happened. So without further ado, we can just jump right on this one. I want to reference this chart right here. This is the one that we're going to be going over. It is the Bitcoin production cost fundamental chart by Capriola Investments. He's one of the few, I would say, on-chain / macro guys who I think knows what the fuck he's talking about and seems to be a pretty damn good guy on Twitter as well. Anyways, you can see just visually throughout the full history of Bitcoin, the bottom end of this channel, this red channel right here, has essentially correlated to the lowest price per Bitcoin, and that is essentially the lowest price to produce a Bitcoin, the basement price, if you will. And while there have been some times where we've seen, a few closures below and Bitcoin, hangs a little bit below it for a small amount of time, generally it has been a great value area. Now, this particular chart on TradingView has unfortunately not updated just yet. I can see that I'm spitting everywhere. It's all this sick gunk coming out. I'm still sick, I guess. Elsa's sick as hell. I mean, she's just been in bed all day. So, by the way, if you're trying to reach out to support, it might take a little bit of time. But before I start spitting all over this shit, I should let you know that you can find an updated version of this chart on his website, and you can see that since the halving happened, indeed, the channel has actually more than doubled in essentially the basement price to produce a Bitcoin. So, what is it at right now? It's actually at a very interesting number, because the number that it's at is well above current price action, actually by more than $10,000. It's currently at 77,553. So what does that mean? If Bitcoin price is below that number and that number is significantly higher, well, I think that's just easy to see on this chart over here. That would imply that we probably don't see Bitcoin hang down below that number for too long if history is anything to be going over. Again, I'll bring you to the last time that we saw Bitcoin even close below this region. This was in November of 2022 off of the FTX drama. It spent, a couple days here and there, it looks like, below that region. But again, long term, that was a phenomenal area. In fact, in terms of percentage, I'm curious how far away it was from that. Yeah, about 5%. If we go to the next option, or the next iteration, that would be back on over here in, of course, May of 2020. And you can see that after the halving happened right here, Bitcoin did come back down and test ever so slightly below the bottom end of that area, which was about a 2.5% deviation right there. If we go to the one before that, this is actually the only time that we've really seen Bitcoin really come significantly below it for it still wasn't that long of a time, to be fair, but you can see right here that Bitcoin did live below it for actually more than a few days. Looks like about a week. In this case, it did actually operate about 15% below it at its worst. And of course, the time before that, on the first halving, we never really even see Bitcoin get anywhere close to the basement price. So not really helpful in that regard. Anyways, what does that mean? Well, with Bitcoin, again, $77,000 would be how much deviation from right now? That would be that should be a pretty significant deviation, 14% deviation. From that number right now. It's kind of actually similar to what we did see in 2016. And, well, if history is anything to be going off of, Bitcoin's at kind of a good value area, which I understand does sound kind of crazy with Bitcoin, well above $60,000, well above the prior all-time high. So going back and see it over here, do we expect Bitcoin to rally up into that region? Perhaps yes. Again, that does play hand in hand with one of our setups, which I actually did not bring up over here, which I will do right now, which is the daily setup. We spoke about it yesterday, and then also the moon setup as well, I guess, is relevant in this regard. But this one, again, a very simple setup, did fire off in middle of March, and these are statistics that are relevant for it. Just over 51% strike rate, but on the average returns for the winning trades, you can see right here, my cursor is highlighting it, about 22.5%. And from that entry to 22.5% up would put Bitcoin at about $76,000. So $77,000. That does still seem to kind of play hand in hand with that. As far as timing goes, this can take some time, obviously. And this does not mean that Bitcoin can't come back down and maybe even retest around the current lows. If I get on my nice little drawing tool, perhaps we see something like this. But ultimately, Bitcoin does seem to be sitting in a base above $60,000, and I do think that the bearish case for Bitcoin coming back down below $60,000 and maybe making a move towards 50 or 53 is becoming significantly diminished. So if Bitcoin did have another downside move, I think it'd probably just retest these lows, probably put in a slightly higher low, and then try an upside move. Unlikely in April, just personal opinion. I think that if this is going to happen, it probably happens in May. So fair enough. Again, all Mays in election years have been up years, as we went over in 2 videos ago, I do believe. So you can reference that there. Anyways, going to the HPDR bands, I always do want to reference as well. We do see that Bitcoin actually is testing the top side of the 38.2 level as of right now. Again, whenever I see something like this, a lot of the time I will see, kind of a retest somewhere back down around here. And that's why I am saying kind of leaning towards, another come back down, set in a higher low, and then try the real move to the upside. But the most obvious area to be getting bullish for Bitcoin, meaning that, 77 or just 70,000 plus, probably with 77 or 76 along the way, is when Bitcoin starts to close back above $69,000. You start to see that on a higher term time frame. Okay, fair enough. It's game on. And generally, I'd be looking for that move into the $70,000 territory. Again, probably happens over the course of time, not all in one day, but one thing before the next. And we're kind of in like a boring period for Bitcoin. And I think that that's generally a good sign here. It does feel that interest just in, for what it's worth is falling off, after Bitcoin's kind of more intense first quarter of this year. But since then, it's been a pretty quiet consolidation with Bitcoin at all-time highs. Oh, what's up, Matej Urban? Am I saying that? I don't know correctly. I don't know. Welcome. It's time to take off your pants and get ready. Oh, by the way, if you would also like to take off your pants and get ready, you can consider liking and subscribing to this channel. We do these videos each and every day. Anyways, yeah. So where was I? Yeah, just in the general kind of feeling of this market right now, it does feel like there's, the hype's kind of gone again. And in fact, we'll go over a couple of charts tomorrow to likely validate that fact. And I do think that that's generally a good sign with Bitcoin, base good all-time highs, closing above prior all-time highs. And in my opinion, we haven't really seen that experience, that exuberant irrationality just yet. So, with the way that things are kind of shaping up here, I do think that, to kind of summarize my thoughts, Bitcoin generally probably poised for higher, based off of 1, the setup over here, and 2, this data over here, and also a couple of other setups. The moon setup as well, but I won't bring that one up today. It's kind of just a matter, I think it's kind of a matter of time. The only way that I would get bearish, and bearish is not the right word, but be looking for, a more significant move, a deeper retracement, probably a multi-month long correction for Bitcoin, is if we did see a move back down below Friday's low, Friday the 19th low. If you see something like that, okay, yeah, all right. $55,000, $53,000, somewhere around there. Come back to it after that and figure it out. But yeah, that's going to do it for right now. Or should we go for stochastic momentum? I'm not really convinced by this current pivot as well. It looks kind of weak to me. So at any rate, more boring times ahead, but boring likely favors the Bulas here. As always, I want to be wishing you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.